Now, let's see now. What's that? Unicorns? What the hell's that unicorns doing? Right, just gonna share this out to a few sites. Just bear with me before I bring Dave on. He's in the waiting room. So click on that. Jolly good. And then share. Watch party. I don't know what that is. I did that before, but share with friends. Share to a group. Share to a group. Let me see. Sology, the Freedom Network. I've got no idea what a lot of these are. Shine Your Light. I think I'm allowed to do that one. That'll do. Tracy, nice to see you, love, again. Sharon Warburton. Hilda, hello, Hilda, my love. God bless you. Right, let's get him on then. Let's get him on. David, my son. Are you on mute? There is a guy. There you are. How's it going, old son?
All right, are we live now, are we?
Oh, we're live indeed. Have you got any friends to share this with or anything like that?
No idea.
Okay.
I don't know. You know how technical I am.
There's all sorts of people coming on here who I'm not sure who they are. Love the way you talk out loud. I can't help it, Hilda. I should take medication for that, but I don't, because I try and live naturally. Right, Neil, God bless you, Neil. Nice to see you, mate. Keep on running. Now, David, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know. I thought I'll write down some talking points and then realise you spoke about them all last night. So I suppose I should start with a little bit about myself, because maybe people that tune in don't know me.
Yeah, good idea, mate. I don't know whether we've got all that time for you to go on about yourself, but
Well, I thought I'd say what was sort of important, what's important in my life, and then what's brought me to this point where you decide to ask me to come and talk on your internet show. So, I mean, what's important to me? Well, I suppose big things are family are important to me. The self-development is important to me. Looking at how consciousness develops, how people live their lives, and how generally life goes, which has brought me to the sort of or drew me to sort of martial arts and Tai Chi and Qigong. I noticed you put in the blurb that that I teach Qigong and so on. I don't so much teach it anymore, but practice it. I suppose I should say a little bit about what Fu Shen Qigong actually is, which is spelled, by the way, G-O-N-G, not G-U-N-G.
Well, it depends which province you're speaking from, basically, right? Because it could be a QI, couldn't it? It could be Qigong, or any other gung that you like. But if you want to pick me up, you'll be in a minute. Oh, go on, mate.
Well, I mean, Fu Shen developed from sort of my studies with martial arts, kung fu, and came about through practice of Tai Chi with a lady called Andrea Wellesby. I think you know Andrea Wellesby, don't you?
Yeah.
She's since moved away, but I practiced for a short time with her and Jason Chan and the Light Foundation. Spent a bit of time over in Liverpool with the Blackie Centre, doing a bit of Qigong with them. A lady called Xiao Lu, which I think you met again with when you were doing Falun Gong Qigong.
Yeah.
And again, Fu Shen Qigong, it came about really more, and which is where my mindset comes from that sort of Well, Fu means happiness, Shen means spirit, and Qigong is the cultivation of energy. So the whole idea of it is to cultivate the energy of a happy spirit. And that's that's the whole essence of Fu Shen Qigong actually is. Again, no set sort of exercises or religious routine that you need to do. It's about living your life in flow, basically.
So you're the co-creator of this Fu Shen Qigong Tai Chi and however you spell it, because we just like made it up one day, didn't we? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like you've just said, you know, Boggy, my mate Boggy, you know, from Brighton, or Paul Boggy Brighton, Sifu Boggy, right? He's watching now, and you know, it's about the Tao, right? Isn't it? You know, and what is the Tao? The Tao that can be explained is not the Tao. So we come out. If you don't know the answer, you can just say, I can't explain it because it's the Tao. That seems to be the standard answer. If you don't know something, you can blag your way saying, that's the Tao. And what do I know? So, Dave, what do you do for a living?
Well, I teach like yourself, lecture at the local college. I teach anatomy and physiology and sports massage. That came about, again, you taught me, but it came about through a friend of mine who decided to do sports massage, well, sports therapy at the time, a very close friend. Started the course and he said to me, come on, Dave, we'll do it together. And I said, no. I said, that's not a good idea because we went through school together. We didn't do anything. I said, so I'll do it next year. You do it this year. Anyway, he got halfway through that course. You met Steve. And he got halfway through that course and died, unfortunately, at the age of 27. And, you know, the emotional state that left me in was, I want to finish the course for his sake. And it's pretty much been a kind of making of me. It's drawn me into this circle of where I am now, the friends that I have, the philosophies that I have, simply because this young man passed away with underlying health problems that he didn't even know he had.
And Dave, I always, when you talk about him, Steve, you know, he was on the course, I was the tutor, and I still see his cheeky face because he was a cheeky chappy, wasn't he? He was a bit of a scoundrel, you know, and I love scoundrels, right? Probably because I'm a scallywag and a scoundrel myself, you know. And to me, what seems to be is, it seems that the scallies and the scoundrels and those people who've been almost ostracized from society, they seem to be the salt of the earth and the worms that are turning now in order to make this world a better place. You see, I'm on one, but what I really feel is, in this upside down world, there's a great turning going on, right? And all those people who've been sort of pushed out of the pretentiousness of everything are seeming to come back now and getting real about creating a more compassionate, caring and real world. See, I keep saying this, I've become like Father Delaney, you know what I mean? But how do you feel in the way that the world is now, you know, Dave? I mean, there's obviously a lot of serious things going on, but you know, this show's about remaining lighthearted. And when I say lighthearted, I don't mean by being stupid and stuff like that. You know, there's a responsibility that goes with this. And my big one that I've learned, it's 28 years today since I had my last drink of alcohol, you know, and any other, you know, and I say that not in an ego way, because I just feel so grateful that I was introduced to a bunch of people who'd been through the difficulties themselves before, not exactly the same, but the principles of their sort of lives had been changed round by following the 12 steps of recovery. And I base my whole life and my recovery on following those to the best of my ability every single day. And basically what it for me, Dave, is, and I know this is about me asking you questions, but I'm just trying to say, you know, because hard to stop me when I get going.
What are you saying about we wouldn't have the time to talk about me?
So all I do in the morning is I learned that my head, even though it thought it knew what it was talking about, didn't have a clue. And so what I was shown is that there's a bigger part of me, or a bigger mind, or my intuition, or my inspirational self, or my essential self, call it what you like, called spirit. I think it's my soul. That's a much deeper and a more intelligent um, aspect of what it is to be human. I think that, we get mixed up and people get locked in, based upon my own experience, to a very, very narrow-minded view of what the human being is. And I think what's happening now is it's almost like the situations that are arising now are helping people to get back to who they really are and maybe create something more beautiful in this seemingly diabolical circumstances that we're in. Your go, mate. What do you think about that?
Well, I totally agree. Jill was reading something. Jill's my wife. Jill was reading something to me this morning that she'd spotted on Facebook. Somebody had put in there that about this coronavirus issue, and they said that families are now spending more time together. Those fast food deliveries are now stopping and we're having to create more, make our own food and go back to eating together. We're talking to each other more, even though, just like this sort of thing, we're sort of FaceTiming each other more and more because we simply want that contact, we want that sort of interaction all the time, and we are finding that because we've been pushed into this situation, if you like, that's happening sort of naturally. We're becoming more aware of each other's feelings again, and we're getting back to the reality of life. I've literally just stopped and said to Joe just before we started this conversation, and I said, I've done all my work this morning. I've all the work that I had to do, working from home. I've set that up ready and just let that run, in the background whilst I get on with all the things that I want to do in my day now. Like this conversation, for example, I've been baking bread, making evening meals and things like that. Jill and I work, doing it together. It gives you time to do all of those things that we want, that we would like to do, but we never actually get around to. I think
let me just butt in just to say, to make things really clear for anybody who's watching it, that we're on an early lunch, aren't we, Dave? Because we're working from home. Dave,
of course we are.
Dave, we're on an early lunch working from home, mate. Right.
Of course we are.
Okay. And so I just wanted to clarify that in case there was any misunderstandings from anywhere, But no, I agree with you. And my love to Jill and the kids, I haven't seen them for a while, but yes, it's causing people to spend longer with the people that they live with, right? And sometimes that can cause problems, but there can be solutions that can be found, can't there?
Yeah, but those problems they're just underlying issues that never get paid attention to. Well, I think in those circumstances, you've got to take time. Well, you've got time now to address those things that might be, bubbling up at the background of everybody's life in relationships with each other that never actually get said or never actually get tackled. I don't mean it's going to raise arguments and things like that, although it might in some cases, because people are not sure how to deal with their emotions at that point. But it's a cathartic process. It's getting it off your chest, getting it out and removing it. I've recently gone through that myself. I'm not going to share any details, obviously, but that it made me realise just how much, or just what's important to me in that aspect. Family is the real important thing to me. There's nothing much else in life. Everything I do is for my family.
No, I agree, mate. And what this is helping, or this is the way I see things. It's only my point of view, and every single person on the planet has a point of view. And I feel that everybody has an offering to make. I really feel this in this great big global sense. Every single person and every single soul, right, has a contribution to make to cleaning up this world and creating something more beautiful. I know that sounds like idealistic and stuff, but I really feel at an energetic level that this is almost like being a big setup, And when I say a setup, from a yoga point of view, and I study yoga philosophy quite deeply, we're going through a cycle of change now that's been predicted. It's called the end of the Kali Yuga. That's a cycle of time, which is basically when everything falls apart. Everything is destroyed and disintegrated, not for any sort of malevolent reasons. It's just that it's the end of that point where society has come to the end of its thinking and sees that it's not working, so it has to disintegrate to then pick up the bits that do work, package them back together again, and create something new and more beautiful from a different perspective. And this is
totally agree.
so this is the emergence, and this is Taoism as well. This is the emergence into the light, and some people say it's called the Satya Yuga. It's called the Golden Age, and I think what's happening now is we're coming out of the destructive age, the Kali, and into Satya Yuga, which also is represented by a move from Piscean age to the Aquarian age. It's all this stuff that people have been talking about, and that I studied, Dave, in November of 2011. Right, on the 11th of the 11th, 2011, and I'd like to say I was woken up in the middle of the night, a bit of poetic license coming in here, at 3:33 in the morning. This voice said to me, and this is no, I'm not lying here, mate. I might be lying about the 3:33 bit because I didn't take a note of it. But a voice said to me, you need to learn about the great awakening and shifting consciousness, and you need to start helping people to understand what it is. Dave, because you were around. I didn't have a clue what it was about, mate. I'd never heard of the great shifting consciousness. And then in 2012, I find myself giving all sorts of talks on the Mayans and the end times and all that. And if you remember all that stuff we used to talk about, Michael Tsarian and all those things.
Oh, yeah.
About continuity and gradations of change and timelines. Do you remember? We didn't have a clue what it meant. Still haven't got a clue what it meant. But it's almost as if, Dave, that these things happen naturally in cycles. And I'm beginning to understand now. There's no end or no beginning. It's just circles within circles, spheres within spheres, different lines and strings and tendrils of time. That's where my head is at the moment. No wonder I drank, Dave. No wonder I drank.
I mean, it's infinite. It's infinite energy moving in this universe. It's a singular universe. It's single, but it's a continuous flow of energy, a continuous change, as the Tao Te Ching says. The only constant in life is change. It will change. There is a breadth to it. So as it focuses in that center, if you think of the symbol for infinity, as it focuses in that center, there's a real rise in energy. And then as it dissipates and moves out, I always talk to you about it being focus and chaos. I have these moments of real inspiration, and then my mind's like mush for about 3 weeks afterwards because I don't know what just happened. It's almost like a download. But I look back at my blog that I've written since 2009. I thought to myself, I've been talking about the same thing, even though it feels like it comes in and out. I've been talking about the same thing from one aspect or another for nearly 11 years at least. Well, probably more, 20 odd years, because nearly 25 years, I would say, because it was about 1995 when this all started for me, when with the passing of Steve.
Yeah.
So it is. I totally agree. It's this constant flow of energy. That's what's driving this thing. And all we're here for is to really. I wrote a blog called Conduits of Energy, and that's simply. I still firmly believe that we are conduits of this universal energy. It flows through us and out into this universe and back into us and back into the glow, into the universal consciousness. It's constantly getting feedback through humanity. And when you say everybody sees things from a different perspective, yes, we do. And we're all feeding that information, our experience, back to this source, if you like, this, well, for want of a better description, God, if you want.
See, I've never said this. I'm going to say this to the world while you're on here and hopefully embarrass you. But I need you, mate, because, you've been there when I've gone through my deep and darkest moments, and I've shared stuff with you. In fact, you know me better than any person living on this planet. So, I
Well, I
could
look
be in
like this.
prison if you don't just keep some stuff to yourself. You know what I mean? But like, but the point is, you see, Dave, I've opened my heart and my soul, and I've shared everything that was bothering me, everything that I've done. You know, that I felt ashamed of, guilt-ridden about, and all that. I've shared it with you, mate. Right?
Yeah.
And then it leaves you, and this is what I believe is that this is the way that we clean our own act up, is by these steps of humility. And humility to me is just simply means keeping your feet on the ground, because we've all come from the soil, or ashes to ashes. But the whole
Yeah.
point about it is, I think that you have to get to a state of humiliation, right, and then disclose all this stuff, the great cleansing. That's what a catharsis is. It's a great cleansing of the soul.
Yeah.
But you need to find somebody trustworthy enough that you can share everything with, right? And let them just let it go then, because it's in that act of sharing stuff with another human being, right? And I truly love you as a mate, but also real love. No, no, this is
You are embarrassing
unconditional
me.
love, I wouldn't like no tongues or anything like that, mate. You know what I mean? But I'm off again. But
Not
the point
again.
about it is, you know that you could trust me with your life, and I know that I could trust you with my life. And to have a person like that it's special. But I think that this situation now is helping people to find who they can truly, truly trust and share their lives with, And,
Yeah.
and I don't say pay for it, because I've never paid you any money for listening to me, and vice versa,
Certainly not.
And,
No.
and, and, I went through this process in AA and going through the 12 steps of recovery as well, that somebody else sat with me for hours and hours and hours and hours and went through the same process. They didn't want payments because it's pass it on. We share
Trust.
our experience, our
Yeah.
strength, and our hope with one another, right? And that's how it seems to work, you know.
Yeah. I agree.
So, so
I mean, it's a unique, again, it's a unique model, but it's a model that works. And again, I don't know how easy it is for people. I mean, how, it took the death of my friend for us to end up to finally cross paths. So, I mean, 25 years on now, would that have ever happened if Steve had been around? I mean, it probably wouldn't. Steve probably would have become the person that you are to me now. He would have been that person for me. Maybe. I'm who knows? But as you say, I mean, it's you have to trust in a little bit of fate that things are there, things are set before us because that's the way it's supposed to be. It just unfolds before us, and this is why, I mean, we talk all the time about how it's in Taoism to force something. I was listening to Sifu Boggy last night, and he was talking about, I think at some point he was talking about it, if it's forced. I think we were talking about being left-handed, I think, in school. If you're forcing somebody to use their right hand, it's against nature. It's against the natural flow of energy. And things like dyslexia and sort of even mental illness, a lot of that probably developed from those activities that were taking place, still taking place in the 80s in primary schools, trying to teach people to use their right hand instead of their left. Is it any wonder we have a whole generation of people who just can't focus and can't communicate in society very well because they've been drummed down and tried to turn into a sausage out of a sausage factory. It just it's just
no,
it's just
I agree, mate, and we have these talks all the time, don't we? We get on everybody's nerves in the staff room, but funnily enough, they're starting to listening to us now. I think that's strange, because normally it's like, shut up, you two, we want to get the work done, But the work like being dropped for a bit, and people are starting to learn and to listen to this other spiritual type stuff. And I don't see the difference. Spirituality and materialism they're all different places on the same spectrum to me. If we're talking about unification, we're not spirits on a human journey. We're just like spirits, full stop. I think that the human body, human mind is the vehicle through which spirit and soul experiences life. That's where I'm up to. Is that right or wrong? That's what it feels like to me, Dave. I mean, people they can tell me, right? They can suggest to me how I should think, but nobody can tell me how to feel, Dave. because that's what happened to me at a very early ages. I was talked out of my feelings as though they weren't authentic, by my mum mostly. Oh, you can't think that, you can't feel that, and I used to sense and feel energies, right? But I allowed the society that I lived in to talk me out of that. It wasn't their fault, Dave. It was part of my learning, and nobody's put us in this position except ourselves, right? Nobody,
Totally
Dave,
right.
right?
Oh,
We're
totally
all
right.
personally responsible for processing information in the way that we process information. And that, in my view, is directly related to your soul's level, if you like. And I know that there's no levels as such, but there are really. In a 3D world, there are graduations and there are levels. In a 5D world, maybe they're not. But talking 3D to 5D, still talking about levels. So, when we're talking here, we have to use these terms. But at one point, which isn't a point, see, it's hard to explain, isn't it? The Tao that can be explained, Dave, is not the Tao. Over to you.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is, I mean, these aspects of reality are. I mean, we've talked about quantum physics in the past, and where I've talked about these sort of the number of membrane or brains, if you like, as they're often referred to in quantum physics. That they are, each one of those brains is a different aspect of reality, and it's only what we tune into, which is the level that we're at. So, as you say, I mean, if those brains are laid out in a linear form, 12, for example, and we choose number 6 for that day because we woke up in number 6's frame of mind, then there we are. We're experiencing that reality. But we go to sleep that night again. We leave that sort of, we disconnect, and we wake up and we're on 5, or we're on 7, or we're on 8. It's a different perspective each time, but it is there because we chose it. It's there because that reality becomes reality because we chose it. From an unconscious level, from a spiritual level that actually works through this avatar that is Dave or Joe, and create and experiences what it's like at that level. I can't see it any other way. That's the way I have come to the. So if you're constantly focusing on the negativity of the world, you're constantly focusing on the worst part, the worst aspects, then that's the kind of experience you're going to have. Again, this idea of a law of attraction, that's what you're going to attract to yourself. In terms of attraction, you're attracting that reality. You're constantly focusing on it. So that might be number 3 in those membranes of reality. If you're constantly leaning towards number 3 because it's comfortable and it makes you feel safe, or it makes you feel better about yourself, to know that everybody else is suffering, then that's the one you're going to keep attracting to yourself. So, to a certain extent, this law of attraction is real. I'm not sure how much I agree with it. You can completely change your entire reality by, you can become a millionaire because you think about it. I don't think that quite rings true, because I've been thinking about it for 20 years and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. What I'm up to, Dave, is I really feel that the law of attraction is about what the soul attracts in order to learn next, right? And I think that the more we open up, it's almost like a vacuum cleaner starts coming at us, and the events from eons of time start to come at us much more quickly. Call that karma, if you like. And so stuff that's been buried, not only individually, but also by our ancestors, right? I said that in a funny way there, ancestors. I'm just looking at myself here, Dave, on the telly, and I'm all white. Do you think that that's like spirituality? Spirituality? Is it because I'm at a really high point in my spiritual development? Bollocks, who cares, right? The most important thing is, right, what do I really feel that I need to take action on next? Faith without works is dead. Because it's 28 years I'm celebrating today, and it's all to me about Alcoholics Anonymous and the teachings of AA, because they have saved my life. Trying to follow those as best I can on a daily basis, failing miserably most of the time. It's saved me life, Dave, and it's put me here where I am today. And here's one phrase that I didn't want to hear: selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of all our problems. Now, when I used to hear that, I didn't want to hear that. Say, oh, no, I'm not selfish. Look what a saint I am. I'm running around doing good works for people. And my sponsor said to me, that's the most selfish thing you can do, because it's all about you. How do you feel, Joe, when someone doesn't say thank you? And I said, I want to kill him. He said, there's the clue, mate. You're not doing it for yourself from the root. You're actually doing it, right, for your ego's, achievements or gratification. Dave, that really sort of cut me like a knife, because the sword of truth cuts both ways, mate. It cleans your act up, but it hurts like buggery as well. And I think that that's what we're going through now. We're going through this great fire of cleansing. That's just to bring Sifu Boggy into this. This great fire of cleansing. We're in this melting pot, if you like, this crucible where all the impurities now are being burned off to leave this pure liquid gold. And it's that liquid gold, right, that's actually starting to flow through people, and it's bringing with it, oh, see, I am the Pope. Move over, Vatican. I think there may be space there soon, right? I'm gonna pop in, get a room in there, and get a Facebook TV live thing going on. So do you feel that what we're going through as humanity at the moment, it might be part of some sort of great cleansing in some sort of a way?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a great follower of sort of American politics at the moment, and there's this QAnon phenomenon that's going on over there. Some of your viewers might have heard of it, and that's it began when President Trump, or when Donald Trump took the presidency. This anonymous figure named Q started posting his sort of clues. Nothing. It's done in a questioning manner. What's the word? Is it a Socratic process? It's a question. He doesn't offer information. It just offers a question for the person who reads it to question their reality, which I think is quite an interesting way of doing it. I mean, it might be manipulation. I don't know. However, a lot of what has been suggested or questioned since 2016, when Donald Trump got into power, that they seem to be, they call them Q proofs. They seem to have come true. Yeah. And this situation we find ourselves in now, the whole world shutting down and everybody having to be put back into their homes and kept off the streets. A lot of these sort of conspiracy theorists, and I mean, everybody over 40 has at least one conspiracy at the back of their mind. All these conspiracy theorists are suggesting that this is a great cleansing. This is a cleansing of the corruption that is throughout the world. There's been a lot of quotes on the internet at the moment about JFK, and when he was talking about this monolithic cabal that has been against humanity for millennia, and that's what he was fighting, and probably the reason why he was assassinated, if you can say that on the internet. But it's all well and good. I've said this to you before. It's all well and good. It's a very interesting story. It's a very interesting viewpoint. But we're just describing the water that we're all drowning in. We've mentioned that one before, haven't we? We've said that before. We say that quite a lot. We're describing the water in which we're drowning. So it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter. It's how are you going to swim? It's more important. What's next? Which stroke are you going to use?
It's my thing, Dave, and you know that I'm sort of very zen about this. Is all these hypotheses and theories and everything. One school of thought saying this, another school of thought saying this, right? It really doesn't matter if you're focusing inwards. It's not about outer space and expecting. It's really about going inwards and inspecting, because really, it is very interesting, but it's very easily to be distracted and go back on the outlook then, isn't it? And when you're on the outlook, you're in fear, because then all the worries and the worries and the expectations of what's going to happen when this is over. Who say it's going to be over? It's never going to be over as such. So we have to use our innate inner resourcefulness now, our innate abilities, the strengths that we were born with, not all that stuff that we've practiced and got crap at, it's all the stuff that we're born with, our innate intelligence. It's helping people to understand that they've got a specific vibration at the level of the soul, which will bring with it a specific gift for humanity. I really believe this. And when we start to use who we are from who we are, right, what we are from who we are, we'll feel good about it. You know,
Yeah.
how hard is it, Dave, to be kind? It's bloody difficult to be kind when you're afraid, isn't it? You know,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
two
It's hard
things.
to spare. It's
Sorry, mate.
hard to spare a thought, isn't it? It's hard to spare a kind thought for somebody who's criticising. I bring that up because I get a lot of issues when it comes to sort of observations in our job. I find I build a great anxiety over the build up to it, and then I take on everybody else's anxiety in our staff room, and then that culminates in this total resentment of the whole scenario, and I just want to shut down and cut off and not do any of it. And it is so hard to hold a kindness and a thought of I'll just do this to help someone in that frame of mind. It's, you know, we get sucked into it. And I see where you're coming from in terms of, you know, if this Donald Trump is draining the swamp or, you know, or cleaning up the world, it's irrelevant to me or to you in terms of what's next on my agenda. What have I got to do next? What's my next step in life?
Do you know what, Dave? Because I go with energies now, and I use my sensors now. But I try and take all this sensory information, and rather than try and work it out with my head, I allow it all to sit in my heart at the deepest level, and then I say, through my feelings, show me what the score is here, right? You know, and at the moment, what's going on in the world is it could be the greatest calamity and catastrophe of all time. Well, it is, but it also, Dave, could be the greatest hoax of all time as well. And you know what I smell, Dave? I smell both of these things. The hoax thing seems bigger, you know, because you can't believe everything that you read in the papers, Dave. You can't believe everything that you see or hear on the television and radio. You can't believe the second-hand information that's coming from anybody. So who can you believe? You can believe your intuition and your deepest, highest self. That's where I've come to. And do I get it wrong? Of course I do. You know, are you saying, Joe, that we shouldn't be taking precautions? No, I'm definitely not saying that at all. But not to be fearful, but to be cautious. This is really important, this, Dave, right? Is to take all this information coming from your five senses, right? And then work beyond this sensory information to allow it to go past our memories and our reactive emotional centers and to sit in some sort of 0 point where it all gets amalgamated into a feeling, and then go with your feelings. Focus on feelings first, and then by all means employ your thinking mind, but allow the bigger mind, the higher mind, the deeper mind, the intuitive mind, allow that then to guide us through what we need to do next. Christ, I am on one again. And the other thing is, and I'll let you have a go at this in a minute, is, all right, it's not about theories. It's okay then, all these problems are here. What are you going to do about it right now? Never mind wait until tomorrow and next week and when it's all over, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it right now?
Exactly. I mean, again, you got to ask yourself, what can I do about it? You know, if Donald Trump's over in Italy, you know, draining the swamp and removing all the CIA from the Italian government, well, it's got nothing to do with me. You know, what I'm thinking about what I'm having for me tea. I'm not interested in what's going on in Italy. I'm not interested. It's not that I'm not interested. I wrote another article which was sort of detaching with love. I think you know it's a phrase that you use quite a lot, and I thought about it, and it's about knowing what's going on or being aware of what's going on, but not engaging in it. It's not holding on, not taking a grip, and not taking hold of the information. It's about viewing it, because again, going back to what I'm saying, if this is an avatar of God, if this body is an avatar of the energy of God or the energy of the universe that is trying to find out what it isn't, then, you know, all my purpose in life, and I've been asking you this for weeks now, I just can't work out what my purpose is. I think I've come to the conclusion just now in this very moment that my purpose in life is just to see it. It's just to watch it, just to observe it all unfold. And if it is a calamity that brings me to my death, my demise, well, that's just the way it's supposed to be. I mean, again, I'm not a fatalist, but I do think that that's maybe what that's what I have to, if that's what I have to do to serve my purpose, then that's what happens.
Well, I totally agree with you. I think that the free will choice, right, was made before we actually came here.
Of
And
course.
as ego selves, the choice we have is, do you want tea or coffee? you know, because
Exactly.
because when we were on the hollow deck and we pressed the jukebox to say, I think I'll be an alcoholic this time round, the fella behind us said, that's a dead hard one now. Are you sure you want to do it? Because when you press that button, you'll forget all this. So don't be moaning about it. You chose it. Get on with it to the best of your ability. And I wholeheartedly believe that, Dave, that what we're here for is to shred or shed this husk, right, and allow the soul self to come through in all its magnificence. And I think, and what does that mean? It means to work with who you are, not what they told you to be, unless that's the same thing. But generally speaking, there's plumbers who would make better doctors. There's artists who would make fantastic surgeons. There's
Yep.
people in places, who are hating their jobs with all their hearts and souls because they just want to do something else. I'm really suggesting, from what I've found out, is, right, just don't wait until you're on your deathbed to say, I should have done this and I should have done that.
Well, yeah.
It's
We
like,
talk about
it's like,
shoulds, don't we? We
well,
talk about
should, yeah,
shoulds all the time. And again,
and this is from what I've learned is, right, it doesn't matter. Just express what's going on right at the moment, unless it's destructive and it's fired at somebody else. Surely, that can't be right, to actually get stuff off your chest at somebody else's expenses. No, I feel that this atomic energy that's built up in our solar plexus over time is there to transform ourselves and the world, right? And I
yeah,
think it's got to be moderated, ameliorated, and mediated from the heart first. So it's got to
yeah,
come from, you talk about Jing, Qi, and Shen, you know what I mean? It's got to come, in my view, from the bottom half, through the middle half, and then up through the top half and out like that. That's how I see it. Maintaining the fact that you've still got your feet on the ground, but your head in the clouds.
yeah. Well, again, in Qigong, we talk about being between heaven and earth. We are the conduit between heaven and earth with a connection. And that, what you're describing there, is how the energy flows and how the energy is expressed. And that's what's happening all the time. It's just an expression of energy. All of creation, all of life is just the expression of energy, and it's the flow through people. And again, it's a feedback loop. It's not, as it comes through the chakras and into the body and out into the meridians of the physical form, and then through into the aura of the energy that's given out in that toroid of energy that emanates from your heart, from every single beat of the heart, spreading out across this world. What's actually happening is it's meeting other energies of other people and feeding back constantly. You've got this constant back and forth through the meridians, back into the chakras and back into the universe, and constantly back and forth like that. This constant flow of energy that is the change of existence, the change in existence. Again, it's just about interpretation. Again, we go back to that avatar looks at the membrane, or wakes up in the frame of the membrane that it's in that day, whatever that may take, whatever emotional, physical, or mental state that actually creates. And experiences in that hollow deck, in that moment. You talk about the hollow deck that we've chosen from the very word go, but I think we choose that hollow deck every single day. We used to say each day, well, I say that the Mayans believe that every single day has its own emotion or its own characteristic. Well, I see that more and more. I see that more and more in my life. I can't say for other people, but when I feel it, I know I feel it. It's there underlying all the time. This is the emotion you're feeling today. What do you want to do about that?
This brought a phrase, an AA phrase again. I've learned all my phrases from AA, or people I pick it up. It's everything second hand, really. There's nothing new under the sun, as my dad would say. But it's that one: living life on life's terms.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a to-do list, Dave? In the evening, you think, I'm going to get organised now. I'm going to do a to-do list. And you put 10 things on the to-do list. And then you say to yourself, don't you? You feel good when you go to bed and you think, I'm going to do that tomorrow. It'll make me feel good. Right. And at the end of the next day, you've maybe done one thing on the to-do list, So it's the best laid plans of mice and men. So how do you manage your life? Well, you don't. Well, this is how I manage my life. I'll talk about myself. I say in the morning, I go like that. Hello. I open my heart symbolically and I go, what's on the cards today, old chap? You're right. Because that's how I talk to my higher power, because he's my best mate, for God's sake, because it's me at the deepest level. It's you, it's me, it's everybody. So I'm saying is today, what are we up to today? And then I'll get a sense of do that. So I try now, David, I fail all the time, but sometimes I get things just about right by mistake. Sometimes I'll get a feeling that moves me. If this is called being moved by spirit. But if your head's distracted, wondering about usury and eating banknotes and printing trillions upon trillions and trillions of paper notes and then whacking it around the whole world to collapse economies and all that, if you're worried about all that, then you're going to miss the finer points of what it is to be living in this present moment. And I'm not saying, Dave, that that's not happening out there, right? But out there is none of my business, right? None of my business. See, the finger's out there. And what other people think about me, that's also none of my business. So mind your own business. What does that mean? Go back inwards, sink deep, and ask something deeper or higher than you. What's the best way to go about this? And to me, that takes a certain amount of pain, Dave, to get to a point to believe that there's something maybe more intelligent than my poxy little ego intellect.
Well, again, you wouldn't be where you are now without that higher power. You were pointed back to the higher power because of the 12 steps. You've pointed me towards my higher power in the same way. I mean, again, not that you've 12-stepped me because it's right. It's a process that is it's a perfect little model for self-development. So much so that a lot of life coaches and people like that use those very same principles all the time. In terms of a to-do list, though, a to-do list, in my view, is you can write down a list of things that you want to do, that you think you're going to get, you want to try and get round to. It's when that to-do list becomes the be-all and end-all in your life that's the problem. If you're there and the only way you can feel any gratification for being alive is to cross off the next job, as you say, you're missing the whole point. You're not feeling anything. The only feeling you're getting, or the only feeling that you are responding to in that situation, is the gratification that, I've crossed the job off my list. I've done really well there. Give myself a pat on the back. It's the same with Facebook. When somebody likes your post, you give yourself, oh, I've done a good post there. But if nobody likes it, you're buggered, aren't you? Nobody likes it. What happens to your emotional state then? You're suddenly introverted and thinking, oh my God, nobody likes me. What am I going to do in my life? I think I'll kill myself. It's foolishness. And we've been, I see my kids and my kids being programmed. I see all the kids in the college, they're being programmed to that. It's all about that, those hormonal responses to being liked by other people. And as you say, it's none of our business who likes us and who doesn't like us. That's irrelevant. They might not like us for many other reasons, because their mum used to beat them or something. I don't know.
Dave, I'm just looking at the feed here, and Fiona's been on. Hiya, Fiona. Nice to see you. Are we taking questions? We can take Fiona's question.
I can't see the questions at this end.
No, I'll read it out. I'm totally with you when it comes to asking your heart what you have in store today. Where have you gone, Dave?
Don't know. Let me just get back to you. Let me get back to you.
All right. So, Fiona, do you want to type your question in? I haven't quite got to the technology yet where I can invite people onto this yet, but I'm working on it. So while Fiona types that in, oh, there we are. Okay, she's right with us on what we're saying. Ask your heart, but she gives herself a hard time bringing her kids up. Okay. So I can have a little go at that. Is what I found is that there was some deep standard in me that came from society on how I should behave and how I should bring my own kids up. Because I went through this with my alcoholism, and my children obviously suffered considerably. And I was so guilt ridden, right, that it took me a long, long time to let go of that, until talking to you, talking to my sponsor, talking to other people, is that at the time, with the resources that I had, right, I did the best that I possibly could. And I've realized now, Dave, that I was always comparing my behavior to some deeply hidden standard, which was very critical within me. So what Fiona's saying is, what's the best way of going about parenting based upon this approach we're talking about regarding the heart?
Well,
I know that it is hard. It's a hard question, but I'll try and express it as I see it. So your go, Dave.
well, I mean, from my perspective, I'll tell you a little story. I used to say to, in fact, that Joshua, my youngest son, overheard me say to Jill one morning, I wish we'd have been able to give the kids more when they were little. And he stopped me and he said, "Hey, Dad," he said, "I just heard what you said there." He said, "I had the best childhood that my friends envied, the family that we have, and the things that I was able to do, and how I behaved, and how you let me behave, and all the support you give us." He said, "I've had the best childhood ever." But I didn't see it. That inner critic, and again, I think the inner critic is manifested from all those, you should do it this way, you should do it that way. It's irrelevant. Again, going back to your heart, how does it feel in that moment? I mean, I used to shout at my kids and hate myself for shouting at them. And then think to myself, well, why am I shouting at them? Because I want them to be able to function. And there are some things that you have to teach. There are some things, you have to, just to function in life. It's not that important, but picking your clothes up and that sort of thing is, explaining to them why it's necessary. I've got to be honest, I watch my kids with their children now, my grandchildren, and they're excellent with them. They do all the things that I think I never did that. I'm sure I never worked that way. But where did they get it from? Where did they pick up these attitudes and these processes? They've learned from us. They learn from us, and they've taken, as we were saying before, they've taken away the bits that they don't want, and they've kept the bits that they know are important. And I watch Sam and Josh bringing up Oliver, and I watch Amy bringing up their kids, and I watch Jonathan and Jen bringing up their kids, and I think to myself, they're doing a much better job than I did. You know what I mean?
See,
but
don't compare. This is what I got in my first meetings in AA: is don't compare. Don't compare. And that's what I do, is I compare to this deeply hidden structure in me that's false, right? For Fiona, in my view, and right or wrong, I'm just going to say it, to be asking this question on this forum, if you like, right, that means that she deeply cares.
oh, sure.
So
Totally.
what is it that comes in afterwards to say that she doesn't care enough? What's she comparing that to? Is she comparing that to something outside of herself, or something that the academic... Now, we know that the academic structure stinks, Dave, doesn't it? It absolutely and utterly stinks. So what I'm trying to say is,
part of it.
In Tibet, what they used to do in Tibet is, right, they used to watch their child as though it was a seed. They used to water it, culture it, and allow it to grow itself, because our children are not our children. They come through us, not from us. So they're individually, uniquely themselves anyway. And all that they need in order to be is to be watered and fed, and to be kept in a reasonably secure environment. That's my view. But to try and change that now takes courage. It will take courage for parents to wipe the slate clean, take a step back, go into their own hearts and say, please show me. I don't know. Please show me and guide me into the best way forward for my child. And then it's to stop and listen to the answer. And I can guarantee that when the answer comes up, their head will jump in to say, hang on a second, but that's against everything that's being said externally. So all I'm saying is, right, this is what I've learned is your intuition, that means your inner teaching, will help you to smell and feel their inner teaching. And both of you go along hand in hand, right, in the creation of a completely different educational system. I know that this is like a lecture, but education comes from the word educere, right? And it means to draw out of.
Yeah.
Because what's already in the child, it's like a snake charmer. As parents, I see that what we've got to do is bring out, allow them and draw out of who they are, and not to feed them with stuff that pushes them down and it misdirects them away from who they really are. Because that's
Totally.
what happened to me, and that's probably what happened to 99% of the kids in the whole world at the moment.
Without doubt, without doubt. I mean, we've talked about the processing in the moment, how what we see in the moment, what is guided by information that we've gathered that's in the cortex of our brain. We see it, we get a rough sort of comparison to it in our experience, and then we create and project a future action based upon that fear that we might get something wrong, we might do something wrong. We're a little bit insecure at this point. And in parenting, it's exactly the same. But the best way to bypass that, this is how I deal with it. The best way to bypass that, you put me onto a book when we first got to know each other. It was called The Sermon on the Mount. And in that Sermon on the Mount, Emmett Fox says, in any moments of anxiety, anger, or emotional change, and you always say, go back to your heart. And here's how it's done. Well, by Emmett Fox's process, and it works because I use it quite a lot, is to stop at that moment and find some quiet. Don't react, but find some quiet and say the Lord's Prayer. And in saying the Lord's Prayer, if nothing else, it gives you that little buffer zone of time to allow the emotion to sit and then come out in its honesty, the way it should be brought out, instead of fired out in anger or in anxiety and fear. It gives you that moment of solace to just allow it to filter through, as you quite rightly say, to filter through your mind. It basically bypasses that rough that rough connection, and then that projection into the future. It bypasses that and allows us to trust in this higher power, this energy that flows constantly, to allow it to come out in the way it's meant to be for that child, not through your it should be like this, it should be like that, the way it's meant to be. Yeah. The way that the universe has created it to be, because that situation didn't arise out of nothing. It arises, whatever situation it is, it arises out of friction of energy and this idea that something's not going in the flow. And what the universe does in its infinite wisdom, when there's a blockage, it will butt right up against that until it's pushed away and gone.
What I've learned, Dave, is that I was always fighting against my natural instincts, intelligence. I was using my willpower to batter my way through life against my naturalness. Yeah. And when I saw it, it was so easy. I just have to align my willpower, right, with the universe's will for me, or call that God's will, Spirit's will. I'm not a religious person anymore. I used to be as a child. I had to let all that go, but I see underlying all the great religions of the world is the same thing. It's called unconditional love, right? It's called be kind to yourself, be caring to yourself, care for yourself first and foremost, so that you know how to do it, and then pass that information on to others. Don't force it on them. Just show by the fact that you're getting on with life, you're relatively cheerful, you don't let things get you down if you can help it, and you just keep going. That's my view now, is that we're not, from a very early age, we were immediately sort of misdirected into some sort of, don't get me on it, Dave, you can't eat money, into materialism and capitalism and business and corporatocracy and governmental corruption and all. Don't get me going on that. It's all very interesting. But I can see that that's happening on one level. But here's the other thing, is that's the old paradigm. There's no more energy going to that now. Don't even turn and try and fight against it. Use all this atomic energy that's coming up now. Don't give that any energy, because that's what it wants. Turn your head, as Christ said. You know, I'm not religious, but I use a lot of. He says, turn the other cheek. Maybe that just means is look in a different direction. Look into the future and create the future as you're going along. Can I just say, we're coming up to time now, Dave. We've got about 5 minutes left. Excuse me, because I get all like frothy when I'm on one. You know what I mean? I've noticed that. There's always like froth and snot coming out of me, you know, but this is how I express myself. But here's the thing. Can you give me a very, very simple, practical suggestion that may help people just to stay calm and to remain cautious, but not to be fearful?
Yes, I think I can. Again, it's going back to what I've literally just said. This, if you find yourself in a situation of fear and anxiety, is to stop. It doesn't have to be the Lord's Prayer. It can be any kind of sort of self conversation. Express how you feel. I mean, we were talking about having to have somebody else to speak to and let it go. But if you're alone, it doesn't really matter, does it? You are with yourself. And I mean, we're told to talk to yourself is a sign of madness, but it's not madness. It is, you are literally getting it off your chest, to say it out loud, to write it down on a piece of paper and then screw that piece of paper up and throw it in the bin. It is about expressing what's causing the blockage, what's causing that fear and anxiety. And in this world that we're living in at the moment, if you turn on the news, all it wants to do is heighten the anxiety and heighten the fear, because it sells. It allows them to get more viewers. It allows them to make more money. The money's irrelevant. The money's it doesn't mean a thing. The very fact that we're all back in our homes, looking after each other and caring for each other and loving each other again is really what this whole virus is about, and really what this situation of fear and anxiety is all about. It's about getting back to your roots, getting back to that natural state. So don't be frightened by any of it. Simply offer a prayer, if you like, or offer a little bit of a speech, anything you like, just to express that energy, get it out of the system. That would be all I'd say.
No, I agree, mate. And I call that mindfulness, and mindfulness to me has got little to do with your ego mind. It's more to do with heartfulness and how you feel at the depths of your heart, And don't you? We know when to take a right action, and we know when not to take a right action. You know what I mean? At our depth, at the level, if there is such a thing as a conscience, right? You know when you've done something right, and you know when you've done something wrong. And what happens if you make a mistake and you do something wrong? It's easy. If you've hurt anybody, say, I'm sorry about that, I made a mistake there, and go back and choose something else. It's about trial and error. Sin means, from the Greek, sin literally means to miss the mark or to be off target. It's not a big guilt trip. It's just a bloody mistake, Dave, I'm going to put out a thing, an hour talk on heart rate variability biofeedback, because that's the neuroscience of regaining some balance at the level of the heart first. It's a move away from this, what they call accentuated antagonism, into this union, and yoga means union, And if I was going to flog anything at all, it would be the principles of yoga and hatha yoga and yin yoga, all those deeply surrendering things, because this is not going to help you to find the balance. It's actually by taking this thing off and throwing it away that the balance will actually come back naturally, if we just get out of the way and allow it to happen,
Yeah, I think the mind, it's the tool, isn't it? It's the tool of emotion. It's the way we notice the emotion, we notice the movement. That's all. It allows us to label it as a movement. That's all. It's nothing. It's not there for anything else. And maybe the storage of some experience for self-protection. But other than that, I can't remember one thing from one day to the next.
I'm not bothered about that anymore. I thought it was like going bonkers and, had juvenile dementia and stuff. But it's the way it is. There's so much information coming in now that if you're working from the moments, memory's not needed, is it? And that's the thing is, we rely so heavily on our memory to remember facts that were basically might have been useful in the past, but they've got no relevance whatsoever now, So it's to trust your innate resourcefulness, to trust the gifts that you've got there and then, right now, right there and then, right now is all paradoxical. And it's just to basically to start trusting yourself and become more aware of who you really are and not what everybody else has told you to be. Because if you're working from what they told you to be, you're basically living in a non-real, pretentious self, aren't you? And the opposite of pretentious is real, isn't it? So get real, get raw, some, be raw, authentic, and just get over yourself. Get over yourself and get a life, even in the midst of all this stuff now, right? Just allow your big self to come out and express itself. There's all sorts of nutters doing dancing and things, I have to tell you the funny story. She won't like this, but I'm going to say it. Me missus, she put a thing on 2 days ago, one of those exercise videos, with all them slim people from America, hello, and you just do this. Anyway, because she always does is she follows the rules, my missus, Anyway, she's doing this. Anyway, she couldn't walk yesterday. Right. I had to keep picking her up off the floor. And there was all sorts of screams out of her as she sort of tried to put one step in front of the other. So once again is give time, right? Take it easy. Easy does it. But open your heart, right? And just move one step at a time and breathe one moment at a time. Dave, I love the bleeding bones of you, mate. Thanks so much for coming on. I'll be in touch regarding all that other work we've got to do, proper stuff. And we'll get all that boxed off as well, Fantastic. It's good that we're having these online meetings to do with work and stuff,
Well, it's important.
It's important, mate, And I'm just going to knock up a few more schemes at work while I've got nothing better to do. And all right, mate. So
that'll be a first.
Shut up. This might go out live. Who knows? Right. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I see lots and lots of students' names here, And I know that you love him because I do too. And I'll see you soon, mate.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
May the force be with you.
And you.